Reflection, I think that webinar don't work anymore, right? They don't work because we've been putting up webinars and we can see we don't have the same uh, success that we used to have, right? There's not a lot of people. We're not making any sales out of it. It's a bit disappointing. So we think we're going to be changing it. So have you seen something similar? That's a question I want to discuss with you today. That's essentially what actually I have heard from many people I've been talking to, some potential customer, prospect, or people in the industry. And I thought that's a very important topic to discuss. Are webinars still working? What do you think about that? Can we really rely on them? This is a question we'll discuss. So my name is Tony Tio. So I'm the founder here of Renewables in Africa, and we are your global clean energy champion, right? So any question you have on sector, you definitely will want to listen to us, right? So today I wanted to look at this question. I do that. I think there's three things, as you know, that I want you to do. I want you definitely to connect with us, right? So just make sure that you sign up for one of our social media platforms, whether it's on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, or Telegram, right? Any of those platforms you can sign up. Ideally, I wanted to sign up to all of them, right? And as you know, on a regular basis, we come online and we share important information. And on Friday, 1 p.m. GMT time, so we like to focus on the money question, right? The money. How do you get more money, bring more money into your business? That's what we want to focus on. And today I wanted to look at this question, webinars, because it's so important, right? It's so important. And I've heard so many complain, and I thought it has to be dealt with, right? And I just wanted to share my opinion with you. I'm hoping that you won't mind, right? So actually, I would even appreciate hearing from you and listening to what you have to say. So what's your opinion? So if you think that webinar is still working for you, it's not working for you. So what is the complaint about that? What is the concern? Can we find out? And we have a 20-minute conversation. So potentially 30, so it depends. I tend to stay a little bit longer, especially with people that listening to me. But I just wanted to have this question, right? First of all, let's go back and sort of remind ourselves what happened. Because if you don't remind yourself what really happened, sometimes you can lose track of the perspective and you don't properly assess and deal with the question the right way. So obviously, when we had COVID, it's not that we've not had webinar before. Webinar have always been there for quite some time now, right? So when we had COVID, all of a sudden, so the whole world was actually shut down. Like people had to stay home. But as you stay home, you found out that you still have to do some business, right? Otherwise, how are you going to be paying people? You're still going to maintain a minimum level of activity. So basically, what happened is because we still needed to find a way to be in contact with one another, so we sort of diverted our attention to webinars. All of a sudden, webinar very, very popular, right? So I'm sure you will connect with me with that. People like Zoom, they went all the roof, right? With so many people. I even remember, right? That was a way for us to stay connected, to give ourselves a sense that we're still alive. Yeah. So that's what happened. And then obviously COVID was a difficult period for pretty much everybody. And even if I know some people actually took advantage of that. So from a business standpoint, which is a good thing to do, by the way. So then the world starts to open up again, right? The world started opening up again, and we could see there was such an erosion of the number of people still going online. You could see that, but platform like Clubhouse, it used to be massively popular. It's still popular, but not like before. And how do I know that? Because obviously I've actually tested those platforms on myself, and I could see that now it's not as popular as it used to be. Yeah, I'm sure at the time as well you also have a novelty, but we're not here to talk about Clubhouse. The whole point here that I'm describing, or I'm like I want to put I want to pass across the point is that when the world started to open up, all of a sudden you see the number of people attending webinars starting to drop because people started going out, going to work, meeting again. Because as human beings, we meant for physical interaction, right? And that those numbers sort of decrease, yeah. And to the point that now, when you're talking to many customers, and one thing I keep hearing is webinar don't work anymore. Yeah, we don't want webinar. We want to go back to physical event. That's the way to go. That's the way to move. That's the way to move forward, right? So forget about the webinar. Our strategy, we don't want to hear and feel that anymore. And I find it quite interesting. I I must admit, right? So, and I pay attention to observe it. And at the same time, I could see some other people are still making money from webinars. You know, so if you look at the guys like, let me just mention some names, people like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, this kind of people, they're still making money, okay? Because they're doing a lot of virtual events, and those virtual events, you can see they bring together like sometime close to 1 million people that are watching it, and clearly at the end of it, they will be making money one way or another. And I start wondering, so how come some people are actually still making money? And in the sector here, especially renewables, I'm sure it's actually quite similar in many other space. I keep hearing, no, it doesn't work anymore. We don't get the right people coming talking to us. It's disappointing, our expectation. Then I start wondering, okay, so is it that webinar don't work anymore, or the problem is somewhere else? That's the question we need to ask to ourselves. So first of all, as well, you need to understand it's also good to ask ourselves this question. So when we're running the webinars, what is our intention? What is our expectation? So most of the time, people running webinars, the intention is or the expectation is to make sure that they can connect with potential customers, grow their brand name, and out of it get some sort of business, right? So that's most likely what they want to do. And obviously, if they don't get that in the end, they feel a little bit disappointed, right? So that's what we see. And now people now say that, okay, I'm just gonna change and switch to physical event. For me, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Definitely, we need physical event because remember, we're meant for physical interaction as human beings. But the question you want to ask yourself is, if you focus only and purely on physical event, so what it also means is that you probably as well gonna leave on the side that person that obviously found out about you from the webinar and can't travel in that physical event, because there's only so much you can run in a year, those physical events, right? Because it requires a lot more money, a lot more planning organizations, and also you need to book your time and get people that are traveling traveling to the place. So literally, there will be a lot less physical event that you could possibly do than a webinar, right? That's something that you need to do. You need to know. So what are you going to do about the customer that heard about you on the webinar and that needed to find out a little bit more before you can make the move? Because you probably know that, right? So to actually close the transactions, and I'm sure you've heard it somewhere else, it takes about 30 touches points. It means that you need to be in touch with the customer a certain amount of time to develop that trust, that confidence, and also demonstrate that you bring in the value. That's a keyword here: value, before that customer decide to make make the move. So if you move into the physical event and the customer or all the customer that can't meet you, for example, if you do that in Mauritania, if you do that in Belgium, you do that, and you happen to have a customer in the place it can't travel, so right, and you're not doing anything anymore online. So I just want you to be conscious of the fact that most likely it means that you won't be able to connect with that person anymore, right? And this is for me where the concern should be. The concern should be. So that's what I'm saying. Are we just saying that webinar don't work anymore, or there's something a little bit more deeper that should actually reveal what are potentially the shortcomings in our strategy? I know I have a title that is a bit provocative, but I've done it on purpose. And I've done it on purpose simply because I want us to reflect. Just like I'm reflecting on my company, I want you to reflect on your business, especially if you're running a business. Yeah, if you're in the space, it's important, like I say, because in the space, it's important for you to provide the value to make the money that you need for your sustainability. Otherwise, you're not going to be around as a company, right? So that's what I'll say. It's good to ask yourself these questions. Are webinar really the problem, or the problem somewhere else? Could the problem, for example, be the fact that you have not tightened up your strategy properly enough? Because at the end of the day, basically, with the world opening up, there was always going to be a drop in the number of people attending. People need to go to work. We need to go out, go do shoppings. So we can't have the same number of people that we used to have attending webinars, than at the time of COVID. Yeah, that's a given. That's a fact. In fact, we should have even known that, right, at the time, right? Because all the traffic diverted online because there was actually no traffic outside. Yeah, so we should have known about that. Yeah, so we should have almost anticipated it. Yeah. So are we saying here that we failed to anticipate that? And instead of recognizing we failed to anticipate that, we may be blaming the situation on the webinars that is not working anymore. Have we potentially questioned properly why actually webinar don't work for ourselves? Why all the people still making a lot of money from webinars? That's maybe some of the question that I would invite you to have, right? It could be that those questions are quite positive for you, and then you're satisfied with what you have. In this case, that's fine. That means you're actually strengthening your strategy. But for many, I suspect not a thorough analysis will have been done this way. We've just looked at very quickly the number and we move on and say it doesn't work anymore. There's not a number of people coming. The target audience that is coming is not really what we want to see. We don't see that much sales that we used to see before on the back of those webinars. So, conclusion, no, they don't work anymore. We need to move on. We need to go to physical event, and that's the direction of travel. We need to ask ourselves the question. Because some people still making a lot of money from webinars. I personally believe that, yeah. It all depends how you approach the whole exercise. And I just wanted to share with you some key pointers that hopefully can help you to look at that topic, and hopefully as well help you to move forward. So how could potentially make webinar work? Yeah. I just want to share a few points here. Clearly for me, the one thing that you absolutely need to understand is why are you doing the webinar? Who is the webinar for? Yeah. Why are you doing this webinar? Who is it for? And the person we're doing the webinar for, what is their concern? What is really their concern? Yeah. And how are we going to be addressing their concern? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. We're not doing the webinar for ourselves. No, not at all. We're doing the web for other people. So how can we address the concerns? Yeah. So you only define your goals. What you want to achieve through the webinars, right? So do you want to generate leads? Do you want to educate the audience? Do you want to build brand awareness? Not exactly the same. It has to be crystal clear. So that at the end of the exercise, when you look at your goals, you can determine how and whether you have achieved them, and have some metric that can allow you to make this conclusion. People want to have an engaging topic. Yeah, that is very important because you want to select a topic that is the interest of your target audience. This is what I'm saying. Remember, like I say, so, and I said in the previous video, you're going to be attracting the person you want to attract, and obviously getting that person to stay with you if you provide them value, if you provide them real value. Because I know a lot of webinars when I see, so it's kind of a traditional setting. You have a couple of speakers at the beginning. The company will roll out an advert presenting what they do. So I'm sure superb videos shows what they've done, their track record. So a couple of case study, and then you move to topic discussions. After topic discussion, then bang, people are gone. Okay, I think that could potentially a way to do it. That's fine. But the question at the end of the day, you want to ask, have we been able to serve the interests of the audience we were looking to attract? If we believe that we've done it, have you checked that? Have you asked that audience whether they will serve, right? And also, what have you done to make sure that that audience is eager to meet you again? Because you've given them so much value they can't wait to come back to meet you. Because if you're solving one of their problem, one of their key problem, they will want to come back to you. Obviously, they will want to come back to you if you actually touching on their problem. What is really key concern? Because let me tell you something. If you manage to attract somebody at a webinar, there is a level of interest there. That's obvious. Now, have you been able to serve that person to the point that he or she can't wait to come back? You want to ask yourself this question, right? So clearly you want to choose an engaging topic, as I mentioned, right, of interest to your audience. And this is one of the key. People say that there's a low number of people. Okay, that's fine. Like I said, there was a given that was always going to be a low number of people compared to COVID before, because there was like massive traffic. People had nowhere to go but just online. Yeah, now there is an option. And when there is an option, I mean, you need to work harder to attract people. So what I'm simply saying here, if you have put in the same effort that you were putting on COVID to attract people, don't be surprised if you get less people attending your webinar. Because I'm simply saying that at COVID, there was no option but webinars. Okay, you have multiple webinars, but with a lot of traffic online. Now people are going outside. There's a lot more choices that they can do. So that means for you to attract the same number of people, and even, let's say, 60% of that, you need to work harder. Did you work harder to attract people? Or did people you work with work harder to attract people? Did they work harder to bring your target audience? So you want to ask yourself a question before saying that numbers are low. You want to ask yourself, have we done what we needed to do to attract the target audience and encourage them to register? And not just encouraging them to register, encouraging them to show up, because there is a difference, and you know that. There's a difference between I sign up for a webinar, this is 30-second exercise, and I show up to the webinar. And when I show up to the webinar, I stay all the way to the webinar, or the good part of the webinar, for me to be able to absorb the value that would have been prepared for me, right? Because the longer I stay, and if the content keeps being engaging, in fact, as a participant, it's even difficult for me to go away because I'm getting so much value. I'm getting what I really wanted. So it's difficult, right? So I'm fighting. So I want to go, but at the same time, I want to stay, because here they are. They're responding to a question I've been searching for days and days. Have you done it? Have you had such a topic? Have you put people in such a situation whereby it's difficult for them to go, to leave you because you're giving them so much content? Have you worked harder to attract the same amount of people or even more? That's the question you probably want to ask yourself. If you've done, that's great. Yeah, excellent. Another point I want to talk about, obviously you want to prepare well, for your webinar, and I know that you would have done it. You need to engage with your audience, to make sure they participate. I'm sure you will know what to do. I think I'm just going to some very quick points, yeah? And on the key points, after the promotions, which I say is a big part, because we're going to always have the number dropping, just the nature of things. The other key points for me, first of all, how did you leave your webinar? For example, when you watch your TV series, you see, for example, what is that one that people really like? Oh, I forgot. Or let's imagine, for example, you watching the Lion King, or I don't know. So Wakanda the second. I think name just dropped my mind, slipped my mind all of a sudden here. Yeah, Game of Thrones. That's the word. Well, yeah. Can you see how you're watching every episodes, and they always sort of leave you in a cliffhanger type of scenarios, and you can't wait for the next episode to come online for you to carry on and keep enjoying it. So how did you leave your audience? Did you leave something for them to think about? Did you give them something they couldn't, basically, I mean, they couldn't wait to see you again, just to see what was coming next? Did you give them a call to action, a proper call to action? Did you develop the desire for them to come back to you? You want to find out about that. If you haven't done it, don't be surprised if basically they leave before, they don't come back, and so on and so forth. But the one thing I wanted to say, which is also another key, especially if you are doing because like I said, there's different reason you'd be doing the webinar, right? If it's for the leads, just develop just a brand awareness, So it depends what you want to do. But if for the lead, for example, did you follow up? If yes, how did you follow up? And another question, how many times did you follow up? And what are your strategies to follow up? Did you do that? You know that it takes about 30 touches points for you to close a transaction. So what I'm simply saying here is, yes, when you have the live event, excellent. Yes, you're going to have more traffic, people are engaging, that's fine. But if also from the live event, you would develop, I'm sure you've seen it before. You go to an event, it's brilliant, you're having fantastic days, good conversations. And on the back of those events, those conversations, if you don't nurture them, they die. Yeah. Same thing for the webinar. If you don't nurture some of those contacts, they die. Have you done it? How are you doing it? Yeah. So, and one last point, because I just want to, like I say, we can talk for hours and hours. I just wanted to give you this so that hopefully I can get you to think a little bit more than just simply saying it doesn't work anymore, numbers are low, we're not getting. I just give you a little bit more for you to question, first of all, what you've done in order to assess whether you've done everything to make that work. And if it doesn't work, then you can move on. One last thing I want to give you. So, where does your webinar fit in your sales funnel or your marketing funnel? Because I know that not all exercises, will be done for sales purposes, for immediate sales. Ultimately, sales will always be the end goal, but not the immediate, right? Like I said, you can do the webinar to generate leads, to educate your audience, or to build your brand awareness. Yeah. So, what I'm asking here, where does the webinar sit and fit in your sales funnel, your marketing funnel? What is supporting your webinar? If it's just a one-off that you do, you need to ask yourself. Because think about yourself, even you, when you're discovering a new product, a new supplier, just ask yourself normally when you go shopping, or let's say, for example, you want to buy a new car, right? So you've spotted one car that you potentially may like. Is it like you found out about a car and you buy it immediately? Or you take time to observe it, to talk to people, to take all the facts, to ask some questions here and there, and to see how responsive the teams are, the sales teams are. And my question to you, if that is what you're doing, which I suspect most of you will be doing it because I'm doing it, and pretty much most of us are doing it. If you're doing it, why do you think your customer will only come once at your webinar, at your live event, like it by you, and come and buy from you? Why do you think it would be like that? So why do you think they would behave differently that you behave? In fact, you don't need to basically to look further or to look too far. Just think about how you personally react in many situations and ask yourself the question, why would your customer behave differently? Just as simple as that. So my question becomes, where does it fit in your sales funnel, your marketing funnel? What other action aids supporting what you're doing? So that people can see almost like a continuity in your action. Because the idea is, even if your customer really like what you've shown them, there's something called life. Have you heard of it? As soon as they come out of the event, the webinar, they get embroiled into, life situations. I don't know. My wife not well, my kid is not well, or I need to attend this event, or I need to travel here, or something unexpected happened. And if you don't keep touch with the person, you sleep on the back of his mind. You're not a priority anymore. My question is, before actually blaming the webinar, have you asked yourself this kind of question and understand whether you have a strategy that takes everything into consideration? Hence, with everything I've done to make sure that webinar works for me, it's still not working. Hence, I want to move on and move to another strategy. If you haven't done it, don't you think you want to do so? Yeah. The reality here is, I'm not saying that webinar should be your only strategy, but I'm saying here it should sit and fit within a whole strategy that encompasses different action that you need to be doing. I'm probably gonna stop here because I know I can carry on forever and ever. Yeah. So I just wanted to give you that little perspective here. But I know some of you, and I'm hoping some of you will find it interesting and will find out a little bit more. So what I want to do, which is something I rarely do because like I say, it takes a lot of my time. So the coming week, if some of you actually want to find out a little bit more, I'm very happy to take, to clear my agenda for 3 hours, so 3 people sit down with you, take an hour and maybe have that discussion, maybe looking at what you do and maybe advising. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. By the way, I'm not charging for that, right? So obviously, usually with our customer, I'm doing it for free. So if you can let me know. I mean, I'm just gonna do that only 3 hours because I'm gonna limit that to that. Otherwise, I'm gonna be way too busy. And I know that one of my guys has already said that he's willing to sit down. So definitely. So it's up to you because definitely I know that people will be interested to jump in and sit down and see what we can do to advise. So why am I doing it? Because I believe that we should be looking further than simply saying that webinar don't work. That's why I want to do it. That's why I'm keen to sort of challenge myself, sit down with you and see whether what I'm saying don't make sense. If I'm a little bit too hard on you or not. Yeah, I'm willing to do that. Yeah. But like I say, only 3 hours because otherwise. So 3 people. So I want to do that. So if you want to do that, definitely just drop me a comment, reach out to me on LinkedIn. And then if I don't see that, somebody from my team will see that and we can schedule this for this week. Is that okay? Excellent. I don't see any questions, so we're probably going to stop here because, like I say, for those sessions, I don't want to take it. I don't want to keep it too long. But if there is a question, I'll respond to that. But if there is no questions, that's okay. I'm hoping that that will have been helpful for you to think about your strategy to make sure that you properly assessing webinars the way it should be. And yeah, at the end of the day, develop what works for you. But like I say, I just wanted to have this discussion to see what people are thinking. Oh, last but not the least, how could I forget it? Yeah, you're probably going to see the picture. Yeah, we'll launch our podcast on Wednesday, and you can definitely Renewables in Action. So you can definitely find it on Spotify, on Google. So, but I think Buzzsprout. Yeah, so definitely we'll make sure to drop the link below. So hopefully you're going to listen to that and let me know what you think. So hey, this was Tony to you here. So always a pleasure and delight to talk to you. And I'm hoping that the conversation that we have had this morning will help you to better look at the industry, your proper scenario, and see whether that would something. Yeah, and like I say, if you want to have those free one-on-one session, drop me a comment or reach out to me. Happy to do that, but I'm just going to limit that to three people. That's what I say. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to do some work. Yeah. So you have a great rest of your day, and I see you on Sunday, most likely for another topic. Yeah. But that was the one on renewables and money. Guys, take care. Bye bye.